Hello YouTube! Today is a very exciting video because I am finally going to drive this project car that I've been working on for years. Or at least I hope I am. Now I'm not talking just to drive up and down the street. I'm saying by the end of this video, I want to be hooning this thing all around town. Now the problem is that every single thing on this vehicle has been changed, from the suspension to the axles to the engine to the transmission to every single thing has changed. Which means there's a lot of stuff that could go wrong because most of it is untested. I'm sure there's going to be small issues I need to fix, but I'm really hoping that I don't have a big issue that goes wrong that's going to take months or years to fix. This is a really ridiculous vehicle. This is a stupid swap. I put a 1,200-pound engine in place of where a 400-pound engine goes. I put a huge turbo diesel in place of a small V6 gasser. This should have never worked. And today is when I find out if it actually does or not. And if it doesn't, there goes years of work. And if it does, then I finally get to reap the benefits of years of hard work on this project car. Let's see what happens. I really hope this goes all right. What do you think of the custom plates? 6BT for 6-cylinder Cummins, it's the engine designation, and EXP for Explorer. The people who get it won't believe it when they see it, but you guys know it's true. I'm gonna see how far I make it, but here's to hoping we don't break down. It is incredibly exciting, the prospect that I'm about to actually be able to drive this thing. But it is also incredibly nerve-wracking. Did not even make it out of the garage, and I'm already going for a parts run. I started it and the power steering wasn't working, so I'm on a parts run right now to find some power steering fluid. I don't know if it all leaked out when I was having that power steering issue a few videos ago and I just didn't get enough back in it, or if maybe there's a slow leak that I need to address, but for now I just need to find some power steering fluid and fill it up, and then I can actually get going. It's not a good sign that I'm already going on parts runs and I'm not even out of the garage. Well, they had it at the second place I went, which is how it usually goes. I need to hurry because it's already 80 out and it's only 11 o'clock and that thing does not have AC. So it's gonna get real warm real quick. All right, it's got power steering fluid in it again. Let's give this 30-point turn a shot again. See, I have to do a 30-point turn because the Ranger behind me doesn't have a clutch in it and the Jeep behind that doesn't have a battery in it, so. You can hear the turbo spool. Also, my steering wheel is exactly upside down, which is fun. Yeah, I'm getting a lot of gear noise out of the transmission. So I'm gonna have to, I guess, double check the fluid, make sure there's nothing weird going on. I was feeling pretty nervous after that last test drive with all the noises this thing was making. But I got under it and I checked the transmission fluid and did a bunch of other things. And I also noticed that the transfer case was hitting on the bottom. So I got under it and I was able to cut that out with a die grinder and with an air hammer. I'm hoping that a lot of those terrible noises I was hearing were actually just the transfer case interfering a little bit. I'm gonna give it another test drive. We'll see what happens. All right, it is now 97 degrees out. So I lost my window to do a real test drive, but I just want to see if cutting that out made any difference. So let's just do another quick around the block, see if it's still making those terrible noises. So I must have left the wheel chocks under it because I just went over something. Whoops. Well, it definitely has torque to be able to do that. It already sounds a little better. Some little kids playing out there, giving me funny looks. The steering wheel's still upside down. Well, it did better that time, other than the fact that it almost died because it didn't have enough fuel in it. Oh, you fell over. I wonder when you did that. That last test drive told me that that little piece of metal that I cut out from underneath it, that was causing all of that noise that I called gear noise earlier. So that's a good sign. However, the last issue I ran into is that I came into the garage and there was a big pool of power steering fluid on the ground. So it turns out my wishful thinking earlier that the power steering was just underfilled or something was just wishful thinking. I must actually have a bad power steering leak, so I need to get under there and see what's going on with that fitting there and why it's leaking. Maybe it was wishful thinking, but I didn't actually think I was gonna have this many problems. After all, I had already driven it up and down the street and I didn't have any issues, but apparently around the block is long enough that the issues cropped up, but up and down the street wasn't long enough, so it's to be expected when you change every single thing and do a stupid build like this, but I'm just gonna keep playing whack-a-mole with these issues, and hopefully by the end of this video, I'll finally get to drive it, which is what I really wanna do. This build has been years of work, and there's always that thought in the back of my mind that there's some major issue with it, like the engine doesn't actually fit quite right, or the engine transmission combo doesn't work quite right, or the rear end doesn't work. I'm concerned that if something big goes wrong, that it's not just gonna be a 3-hour fix, it's gonna end up being a 3-month fix, and that's what has me so worried here. Hopefully I don't run into any of those issues and it's just small whack-a-moles, but we'll find out. Well, YouTube, that sucks. Turns out that it's nothing that I did. It's actually the power steering pump's just leaking. So it's none of the fittings or anything that I put in there. It's just the power steering pump. So that's good because it's not my fault, but it's bad because replacing the power steering pump is a lot bigger job than I want to do right now. I watched a YouTube video and it doesn't look too hard to fix the pump. So I'm gonna give that a shot. The seals I needed were in stock at my local auto parts store. Let's give this a try. Hoping this means that this was just another small problem and not a big problem, but let's tear this thing apart and see. This is a dirty little pump. This is about what the rest of the engine looked like before I cleaned it. Fortunately, the back of this thing was hiding against the engine block and I never pulled it off, so I didn't really get it clean behind there. The way a Cummins connects everything to the crankshaft is with gears. It doesn't use a timing belt or a timing chain. This part right here is a vacuum pump. Because it's a turbo diesel engine, the engine doesn't make any vacuum, it makes boost. So you need a vacuum pump here in order to run things like vacuum brakes and cruise control. And then right here is power steering. So this is the actual power steering pump. And the spot I was leaking was right here on this seam. So really I just need to get that off so that I can replace the O-ring in there. But before I do anything, this thing's getting cleaned. Always good to have a decent pair of chem gloves when working in the parts washer. I got this pair of chem gloves with liners for like $2 at the Army Surplus store. Army Surplus store is a good place to get crap like this. That was a whole lot of grease that came off of that pretty quick. This parts washer cleaner I've been using works really, really well. I found this at Tractor Supply. This isn't sponsored or anything, but this is the only one I could find that was actually petroleum-based rather than water-based. This crap I got from Summit Racing is terrible. Water-based just doesn't work for me and it molded over time, so would not recommend that. Would recommend this. It works amazing. All right, this O-ring right here is the one that I imagine was the issue. I don't see any obvious holes in it, but it wasn't in great shape. The O-ring in here is in way better shape, which is probably what you'd expect when it actually has an oil bath on it. Time to start putting it back together. So I was about to put this cover back on, and then I realized something. See these two nice little nicks on the bottom of it? Well, when I flip it over, there is a perfect little nick right there, right on the O-ring sealing surface. This could have been the source of my leak. This is a pretty significant little bump here, and I'm betting the O-ring just couldn't take up that much room. So I bet this was the problem. I'm gonna have to try to smooth this out. This is what happens when you get used engines off of old farm trucks. You never know what sort of issues you're gonna run into. This is why it's important to own a ball peen and not just a regular claw hammer. You're never gonna make use of the claw on a car, but the ball on a ball peen could come in handy. Like when you need to pee in random metal back and around. On top of that, claw hammers usually have very small mass, which means you have to hit things way harder in order to move them the same amount. You do a lot less work if you have a little more mass in your mallet. That came out reasonably smooth, but I'm still gonna stick a little RTV on that spot just to be safe. An O-ring really can't take up that much deformation. Since I already have all the power steering fluid drained, I'm gonna do something I probably should have already done by now. I'm gonna add a power steering cooler. This Explorer has big 37s on it and I plan on off-roading with it, so power steering cooler is a good idea. This is the Auto Trans cooler out of the original truck. This is going to be super overkill for a power steering cooler, but it's free and overkill is better than underkill, so I'm just gonna use this. One problem I have though is that the power steering reservoir is really, really low down in there on this truck. So stock, this thing would have mounted about right here, but of course in front of the radiator behind all this bodywork. Stock on the Ram truck, that is. And I already have all the bolt holes I need in order to do that, but unfortunately I can't do that because the power steering reservoir is about this high, which means all of this would be above the reservoir and I would never get fluid in there, it would just drain out. Instead of doing that, I'm gonna have to mount it more like this. So I'm gonna have to make some custom mounts. I'm gonna pick up one of the stock bolt holes, so that one will be nice and easy. I just need to put a nut on it. And the other side has this type of dealio. So all I'm gonna do is I'm gonna put a nut in there like this with a nut on either side to clamp it and then a nut back here to hold it onto the bodywork. Should be a pretty simple mount.
While the front end was already in the air, I figured I might as well fix my upside down steering wheel.
I put the front end back on the ground, and even with these big 37s, I was still able to turn the tires with only one hand on the steering wheel. So at least I know I got my scrub radius right. Alright, I've been playing whack-a-mole. Think I got all the small problems. Think I've whacked all the moles, but now's the moment of truth. Let's take this for a drive again. And the ultimate goal is, let's just see if I can make it to the gas station and get some fuel. It's a pretty normal thing, but for some reason it feels like a really big challenge in this thing, but hopefully we make it there with no problems. Let's see what happens. I'm really nervous to drive this stupid thing. I'm not entirely sure why. I don't know if I'm nervous that I'm gonna get pulled over, if I'm nervous that things are gonna break, if I'm nervous that this project car just isn't gonna be that good. 2 years of work and I'm worried it might be crap. I don't really know. All I know is I'm very nervous to drive this, so let's see how this test drive goes. Thing sounds ridiculous. It drives all right. It's not bad considering it has no sway bars, front or back. Made it to the gas station. So how does it look from outside? Does it look as sketchy as it does from the inside? Does it look terrifying?
No, the only thing is it looks like you're on your brakes a lot. Like you're not confident in the braking.
Yeah, so they were like shuddering a lot. So I think it's because they're still super rusty because I got it out of a junkyard.
Got it.
But they smoothed out, so.
And it's a little wobbly back and forth, and then the camber on the front is pretty silly.
Yeah.
But
Well, it felt a lot better on the inside than last time, so.
oh, good.
Yeah.
I mean, do you have like speed now?
Yeah, I haven't done full throttle because I'm nervous about it. But
Are we going up in the hills?
yeah.
Ooh.
Cool. All right, let's get some fuel. So I put fuel in it. I was a little paranoid it would just pour all the fuel out on the ground because I had to modify the fuel filler neck and everything, but it didn't seem to. It also seems like it's running a lot smoother now, which is great. About to go find a place to run it a little more. It's cutting out a little again. I don't know if there's air in the fuel system or what. The exhaust pointing that way, every time I drive past a car I can hear it coming back at me. Also, it's dying again. All right, let's see. It just died. I think every time I go on an angle, it's losing fuel. So yeah, it doesn't want to start. I think I need to point it back the other direction to get it to start. I'm not sure. I could also maybe roll back to where it's flat. Yeah, maybe I should just roll back to where it's flat. Well, we're broken down. It happened. I think on a hill, the pickup just isn't working, I think. I don't think it's getting fuel when it's on a hill. It started dying on the last hill, and then this hill, it just straight up died. I'm gonna pull into this little church parking lot and piss off some people on their nice little Sunday. Well, that fixed it. It's smoking? Yeah, it'll do that when there's air in there. So I guess let's head back home for a minute. Do you mind opening the garage?
Oh yeah, it made a pretty terrible sound.
Yeah, I heard that. It's in the steering. All right, so what happened? Well, it ran really good for a minute. It drove nice and everything. There was a small click in this front end I need to figure out, and you know, I said there was a click in the steering. I don't think it was a click in the steering. That fender didn't look like that before. Yeah, not only is that a little crumpled, it also wore some paint off. The fender's been hitting the tire. This is what the other side looks like. I'm glad it's not a click in the steering, but I'm a little upset that these brand new fenders, one of them's a little chewed up already. Remember when I said I didn't want to put weeks of work into these fenders that were just going to get chewed up off-road anyways? This is kind of what I meant. I haven't been off-road yet and they're already chewed up. That kind of sucks. Oh well, I'll find a way to remove some more metal or do something so that the tire stops hitting. But the big problem was as soon as I get on a hill, it starts to cut out. And if I stay on a hill for a minute, then it just died. So that must be a problem with the fuel pickup in the fuel tank. that was something I just made out of a soft rubber hose, and that was probably a mistake. So I'm gonna have to drop the tank to figure that out. All in all, that is a livable problem. It's only gonna take me a weekend to fix, I hope. Even though I still have work to do, I'm really happy where it is at this point. This thing is just pretty insane. And I can drive down the street and it feels relatively normal until I get to a hill, but we'll fix that. It feels like an actual car. And that's really rewarding to have something that you built yourself driving on the street. That's such a ridiculous combination of so many different vehicles. Nobody has a car like this. You can't just go out and buy anything like this. They don't make it. And it feels really nice to be able to drive something like that down the street. On my channel, you're never gonna see me write a check for somebody to do an engine swap. And I recommend you don't do that either. Even though it's so much more frustrating, it is so much more rewarding and so much cheaper to just do it yourself. So that's what I recommend you do. Go out there and build something. If I can build this ridiculous project car, you can build whatever it is that you have in mind. It doesn't have to be something that takes as many years as this did or as much work. It could be something a little more sane, but just get out there and do it. Promise the reward's worth it. If you like this video, you might like the video where I took it around the block for the first time. Otherwise, subscribe and stick around, and thanks for watching.